Have you ever wondered why there are misconceptions about women's place in mosques? The Quran, the holy book of Islam, does not explicitly state that mosques are only for men. In fact, the Quran perceives mosques as a place of unity for all Muslims, regardless of gender. It's a spiritual sanctuary where every believer, man or woman, has the right to connect with their Creator. The exclusion of women from mosques contradicts the Quran's teachings of equality and unity. It goes against the spirit of Islamic principles that advocate for the inclusion and participation of all believers in the worship of Allah. The other questions are, why do they build idols of the moon and the star on top of every mosque? And why the Prophet's name is mentioned in mosque? As we delve deeper into the Quran, we will find that its teachings promote unity, inclusivity, and equality amongst all believers. Idols are not permitted, and no one else should be mentioned but Allah inside the mosque. So, let's dive into the Quranic verses to have a clearer understanding of the sanctity of mosques and their significance to all Muslims, regardless of gender. The Quran emphasizes respect and reverence in mosques, but have you ever thought about the use of the Prophet's name within these sacred spaces? Respect for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is a fundamental aspect of Islam. The Prophet's name should be used with utmost respect, following Islamic etiquette, such as saying peace be upon him after mentioning his name. Using the Prophet's name in mosques can be considered a grave offense. This is because mosques are places of reverence, sanctity, and respect only for Allah. Therefore, any mention of the Prophet's name or anyone else within these sacred walls contradicts the Quran. In 72:18, God says, "The places of worship belong to God. Do not call on anyone else beside God." This highlights the importance of respect and reverence in mosques, just for Allah. The Quran doesn't just mention mosques for God alone. It emphasizes their sanctity and purity. This sacred light shines brightly in Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 114, where Allah unequivocally condemns those who prevent His name from being remembered in mosques. This verse is a profound reminder of the sacredness and exclusivity of mosques in the worship of Allah alone. Let's delve a little deeper into this verse. The Quran states, "And who are more unjust than those who prevent the name of Allah from being mentioned in His mosques and strive toward their destruction." This powerful verse underscores the gravity of the act of preventing the remembrance of Allah in His mosques, an act deemed deeply unjust. The essence of this verse is not just in its words, but in its implications. Mosques, in the Quranic view, are not merely physical structures. They are sacred sanctuaries, holy places, where the name of Allah is exalted and cherished. They are spiritual havens where believers connect with their Creator, where they find peace in remembrance of Allah. But there's more to it. This verse also emphasizes the exclusivity of mosques for the worship of Allah alone. It reminds us that no other name should be mentioned with the intention of worship within these holy walls, asserting the principle of monotheism. Moreover, the verse highlights the sanctity of mosques by condemning those who strive towards their destruction. It is a reminder of the sacred role these spaces play in the lives of believers and the severe consequences of violating this sanctity. In 9:107, God says, "There are those who abuse the mosque by practicing idol worship, dividing the believers, and providing comfort to those who oppose God and His messenger. They solemnly swear, 'Our intentions are honorable.' God bears witness that they are liars." 39:17. As for those who discard the worship of all idols and devote themselves totally to God alone, they have deserved happiness. Give good news to my servants. As we see in these verses, idols are forbidden in mosque or to worship, but they have been placed there to deceive the people. The Mamluk flag had a crescent symbol the first time in history, and later the Ottomans had both the crescent and the star as their symbols. It was corrupted at those times. The crescent moon idol is also found in the Orthodox Church as their idols, and you can see where it influenced. The Quran also illustrates mosques as centers of unity and harmony. This idea is embodied in Surah Al-Hajj, verse 40. It is here where Allah promises to protect mosques as they are places where His name is constantly remembered. But more than a promise of protection, this verse holds a deeper meaning. In this verse, mosques are not just buildings. They are symbols of Muslim unity and communal strength. They are places where the name of Allah is exalted, where His teachings are contemplated, and where hearts are filled with divine wisdom. They are spaces where Muslims, regardless of race, language, or social status, stand shoulder to shoulder in prayer, in humility, and in brotherhood. This verse beautifully captures the essence of mosques as more than just physical structures. They are spiritual hubs where the soul finds peace and the mind finds enlightenment. And in 734, God says, "Children of Adam, dress well whenever you are at worship and eat and drink, but do not be extravagant. God does not like extravagant people." In this verse, God is calling to all children of Adam, men and women, to dress well and to go on the mosque. In the grand scheme of things, mosques are not just centers for prayer, they are centers for unity. They are platforms where the Muslim community comes together, not just in prayer, but in spirit and in purpose. This verse reaffirms the mosque's role as a unifying force, a place that brings together the Ummah, the global Muslim community, to pray for God alone. So, what have we learned about the importance of mosques from the Quran? Well, we've journeyed through the pages of the Quran and discovered that mosques, or masajid in Arabic, hold a significant place in Islam. They are not just architectural marvels or places of worship, but they serve as the spiritual heart of the Muslim community. The Quran first mentions mosques in the context of their sanctity. They are sacred spaces where believers gather to worship Allah, seek His mercy, and find spiritual solace. The Quran emphasizes that mosques are under the divine protection of Allah, and as such, they should be treated with utmost respect and reverence. The purity of mosques is a recurring theme in the Quran. They are meant to be kept free from worldly distractions and negativity. The Quran instructs that mosques are solely dedicated to the remembrance of Allah, and no other deity should be invoked within their walls. This highlights the monotheistic nature of Islam and the reverence reserved for Allah alone. Mosques also serve as centers of unity, as illustrated in the Quran. They are the communal hubs where believers come together, forming a strong, unified Muslim community. They serve as meeting points for social, educational, and spiritual gatherings, fostering a sense of brotherhood and solidarity among the believers. The Quran also addresses the role of mosques in promoting and preserving Islamic teachings. They are the venues where the Quran is recited, where knowledge is shared, and where the principles of Islam are taught and upheld. This further underscores their importance in the spiritual life of a Muslim. In essence, mosques are not just buildings, they are the heart of the Muslim community, as highlighted by the Quran. They are places of worship, sanctity, unity, learning, and community. They symbolize the commitment of Muslims to their faith and their dedication to the worship and remembrance of Allah. They are the physical manifestations of Islam's spiritual principles and values. So in the Quran, mosques are much more than just places of prayer. They are the pillars of the Muslim community, the sanctuaries of faith, and the centers of Islamic. Only Allah's name is allowed in the mosque, and no idols belong in the mosque. All women are allowed, no one should be excluded, and that is the truth. Beware of where you pray, people. Please share this. Thank you.